polite, keep your phones off and stay seated during our speaker, and help me enthusiastically welcome our speaker, our very special friend, Diana Eve from Prescott.
No, I think I'll be able to stand as long as I can.
All right, have fun.
All right, yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm Diana, and I am an alcoholic. Hi. My sobriety date is May 26, 1992. Just to let you know, that's 32 years, and I am very proud of those 32 years. You should be happy I'm sober for 32 years, if you saw the way I drank. My home group is Saturday morning, 7 a.m., Girly Birds. Been going to that one since it started, which is quite a few years ago. So I was born in Yuma, Arizona. I'm Hispanic. There's a lot of drinking in my family. And even today when I think about it, I watch the generations and we still do the same thing. Well, I don't, but my family does. We drank for birthdays, baptismals, confirmations, First Holy Communion, weddings, funerals, wakes, whatever happened. Somebody graduated, we'd celebrate too. It wasn't even our family, we'd celebrate with them. And I grew up thinking that only Mexicans drink that way. White people do the same thing, and every ethnic background has this kind of problem going in them. My dad was an alcoholic, and I don't think I realized that he was a violent alcoholic until I was about 8th, 9th grade. And that's when we started to learn how to walk into the house and to be very aware what the temperature was in the house. When you could say something, when you just needed to go to your room, be quiet, don't do anything. And that's how we lived. My brother and I, who's 1 year younger, we vowed that we would never drink like my dad, ever. And he was, we went to midnight mass, came home, the Christmas tree is halfway inside the house and halfway outside the house. He had thrown it through the window. And God bless my mom. Oh, your dad's home. And we're like, oh shit. So we go in and he was mad because we didn't wait for him to take him to mass with us. And of course he was drunk. But that's how my life was, that's how I grew up. And it was like, I thought everybody's family did that kind of stuff. I had no idea about being calm, being serene, being gentle. When I would get into fights, and I'm telling you, I would beat somebody up or they'd beat me up, and it was just, then we were best friends. It was not a big deal. That's how my life was. When I started drinking, which wasn't I didn't drink much until I was about 16. And I would drink out on the football field because the guys had beer. And there was a couple of us girls that would sneak out and we'd go drink. But it was not an alcoholic problem at that time. It was a high school problem. And I got through high school and I got a job. And it was a pretty good job. Oh, I'm sorry. I got married and I got pregnant. Not necessarily in that order. And I had my child when I was 18 years old. I was a senior in high school. And at that time, in 1975, was when they made pregnant girls, it just started, to stay in school so that we could be a role model for other pregnant women, that they didn't have to go stay home and, drop out of school. I was also in student council. I was band president. I was a majorette. I was a drummer. I did a lot of activities. And learning through therapy years later was the reason I did all those clubs and everything was so I could stay out of the house and not have to deal with the violence there, which makes perfect sense now. But there were times where it was just like, my first husband, he was Anglo, and I didn't know how to make white food. I knew how to make, burritos and carne asada and carnitas. And so I got this recipe book out, and it was this chicken thing. And I was drinking wine, because that's how everybody in my family cooked. And I was drinking wine, and I was cooking all day long, reading the instructions, making sure I got everything right, and all this kind of stuff. And he came home, and he looked at the chicken, and he said, "What is this?" I said, "It's orange chicken." He goes, "Well, I'm not going to eat it." Now, I'm the kind of person, when I get mad, I don't process it. All I could see was the red film coming in front of my eyes. And I'm drinking my wine. I said, "Oh, you're going to drink it. You're going to eat it, man. I'm telling you." "Nope, I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to get it." I said, "Oh," and he keeps talking and keeps talking. So I put my hand in the cavity of the chicken. I was also very athletic at that time. And I picked up the chicken. And I can see him, still in my head. He's backing up against the wall, and he's yelling at me, "Put the chicken down." And I can't hear him. And he gets out to the door that goes into the garage, and the garage door is open, and he's still yelling at me, and I am just coming at him, and I start running at him, and then I threw it just like a football, and I threw the chicken at him. This lady and her dog were walking by. And he ducked, and this chicken went right over his head and fell right in front of that little dog. And the dog just kind of like looked up to heaven and said, "Thank you, God." And he just attacked the chicken, and I was pissed, man. I was just so pissed. I locked him out of the house. No way was he going to come in, because I had plenty of wine left. And that's how I tended to deal with incidences in my first marriage. I'm the kind of alcoholic, when it talks about in the big book that we have an allergy to alcohol, I'm allergic to alcohol because it tastes like more. I get very thirsty. And after the second drink, I'm thinking about how much do I have and where am I going to get more. And then I wake up, and it is party. We are going to party. And you are going to have such a good time, and I'm going to drive. Now, I used to pretend that I was from England, and I would drive on the wrong side of the road, and I'd wave, and "Hello, how you doing, governor?" And just have this stupid accent that was a little bit of Spanish kind of influence there, and it was just so bizarre. I would pretend that my Prelude Honda was a four-wheel drive. And I would go over stuff that obviously you're not supposed to go over in a little small compact car. And I would crash it, and I'd, kind of stumble out and all that kind of stuff. And it was just like, it just started getting worse and worse. I'm also allergic to alcohol because my clothes fall off. And I was one of those drunks. "I would love you. You are going to be Mr. 2. You're going to be my next husband. We're going to live so good, and we're going to have this little house, and we're going to have a little picket fence, and we're going to have, kids, and we're going to do this and that, and God, life is going to be great," until I woke up the next day. And then I had to face the consequences of my actions with my first husband. And this went on for years. And I totally ruined this marriage. And I'll tell you, when I first came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I was so convinced that you would understand that the kind of guy I was married to, you would drink too. And until I had to do a 4-step, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but I knew I was Mother Teresa, I was a giver. Man, you don't understand, I will do anything for you. But I had a list when I would do something for you that you owe me. For a while there, I worked in narcotics for about 5 years. My office was right next to the evidence locker. And there'd be, heroin. And this is, back in late 70s. And there's heroin, cocaine, marijuana by the truckload. Nobody cared that my office was right next to it. I was the only one that had a key. because they knew I would never touch it. I've never done an illegal drug in my life. Okay, I'm kind of lying. I did half a joint in 1983 on Lake Havasu, and I didn't like it, and I threw the joint over the boat. I couldn't stand it. It was just like, man, why would I want to do that when I have tequila? That is bizarre. I don't know why you guys like that stuff. But they would never tell me where they hid the alcohol in my office, because I knew I was just be thinking about it. Maybe a little shot in the afternoon kind of thing. So they really trusted me with that kind of stuff. And there was, some really weird, bizarre stories that I have about working with narcs, like shooting lights out and that. I mean, it was just bizarre. But I loved it too, because I loved that adrenaline. I just loved that and get all excited. So my first husband and I got divorced. I had custody of my son. He was about, 11, 12. And we were here in Prescott. And after about a whole year, I started dating this guy, a really nice guy. Now, this guy would take me out on dates, and he'd walk me back to the door, and he'd shake my hand. Okay. Now, I think this goes on for about 6 months. He says it only went for about 30 days. I like my version more because I really was tortured soul about this whole thing, because I'm not used to men treating me with dignity, with respect. I wasn't used to being cherished. And this guy did this every time we went on a date. And I thought, this guy's married, or he's got a girlfriend. Something's going on. Finally, I seduce him and get him into bed. And we're laying there, and he goes, Diane, I need to tell you something. I'm a sober alcoholic. I swear to God, I don't know what that means. I just kind of looked at him, and he goes, I don't drink. I said, in my head, this is what I'm thinking. I will always have a designated driver, and I will never have to share. I'm going to marry this guy. And eventually, I did. And we're going to celebrate 36 years next week. And my husband is John Erickson, and I love John. When on May 25th, 92, I used to, hang out and do the softball kind of stuff, and my sister was up for the weekend. Oh, I also want to preface this with, I'm a binge drinker. I could hold out, except for the holidays. I gave myself that permission that I can start drinking on Friday and, or Thursday night to Sunday, whatever the holiday landed on, kind of stuff. And it would be continuously drinking. And I loved it. I thought I was having a lot of fun. I, of course, was doing things I shouldn't have been doing, but I never got arrested. I worked in the legal field too with a defense attorney. And we would get DUI clients in, or, people with possession. And I would say, Polly, there's an AA meeting, and you really need to go. If it was after 4:30, I said, but I got to go to my own meeting, which was happy hour downstairs. It was just like, Mama's got a drink. So in about that time when I had married John, and I'm still drinking on the binges, and he's still sober, going to his meetings. And I would go to open meetings with him, and I would love you guys. You guys were so happy and friendly and kind. It was just like, wow, this is a great group. And I'll tell you, on May 25th, if I had known that was going to be my last night of drinking, I would have drank a lot more. Because on the 26th, I woke up, I think I was on the floor, and I'm not kidding you, and this is a big part of my story because I absolutely believe this happened. I heard God's voice say, it's time. That's all. And I remember opening my eyes, And I just kind of repeated that. I just said, I know. So John comes into the bedroom, and I get up, and I said, I got to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And John starts doing the happy dance, and oh my God, yeah, that's great, okay. And I said, dude, I don't need to go like right now. I just need to go today, okay? I'm a little hungover. So we go to, it was called at that time Happy Hour. It was at 5:30. It was on Gurley Street where chapter 5 is now. This is what's really bizarre. I loved you guys before I was in AA. I go to AA for me as the alcoholic. I don't like the title of the meeting, Happy Hour, because it's not freaking happy hour. I don't like everybody hugging and wanting to shake my hand and welcoming. I don't want you to know, what's your name? I'm not going to tell you. And then after about, and that first week, all I could do was just hang on to the table. I couldn't talk. I didn't even hear you. I really didn't care. I just knew I had to do this. And about the third week, I'm there and I'm drinking coffee. At that time, we didn't have paper cups. We just had the ceramic cups. And this lady comes out and she goes, hi, would you like to do some service work? Why? Well, because you're drinking coffee and we wash the cups after the meeting and we'd like you to help us. So I had my cup and I gave it back to her. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I know if I go back there, you're going to talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not going to be here that long. And I'm not going to tell you my name. And I'm not going to be, your bestie or anything. That we're not going there. Because I'm just fine. And she looked at me, she just this big smile. She goes, oh, yes, you are. And I'm like, fucking bitch. So for about 2.5 years, all I did was go to meetings. I didn't volunteer. I didn't announce that I had 30 days. And that's the other thing, the people that got chips tonight, I so admire you. So admire you. I just couldn't get up and let you know anything about me. I could not tell you I've got 24 hours, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I just couldn't do it. I didn't want you to know, and I was embarrassed that that's all I had, because I'm very competitive. After the 2.5 years goes by, I remember driving with John, and we were going up to Groom Creek for a meeting, and I just kind of looked at him, and I also walked around with a big book. I'd never opened it, but I had one, just in case, one of those old timers comes up to you and says, do you have a book? Do you need a book? Do you want a book? I had one. When people would ask me, who's your sponsor? I'd say, you don't know her. And this is an anonymous program, okay? And they just go, oh. So I had a ghost sponsor. Back then we didn't have caller ID either, and that just kind of pisses me off when I think about it, because women would call, and I would answer, and they'd say, hey, you want to go to a meeting? I'll pick you up. No, I'm really busy right now. Law and Order was on or something like that, and I would hang up, and then this one lady called and says, I'm going to come pick you up and take you to a meeting. I said, no, that's okay. Don't worry about it. And she goes, I'm only a block away. I'm picking your ass up. It's just like, fuck. So I go with her and I'm pissed. I'm just like, God. So we go out to Groom Creek. I look at John and I'm serious. I mean, with total sincerity. I look at him and says, if something in AA doesn't change, I'm out of here. He just looked at me and goes, okay. So I go up. We're at the meeting. And here's the second thing that happened to me that was kind of like a little spiritual awakening was I'm sitting there and I'm looking at these old people. Apparently, if you have more than a year of sobriety, you're all old people. You're just sitting there, and this thought came into my head. It was one of those where I couldn't hear anybody else. I just had this thought, am I going to have to sit with these people for the rest of my life? And then I thought, oh man, I'm at a turning point. I'm either out of here, I'm gonna go back to drinking, or I gotta get off my ass and start doing some stuff. I was at a turning point, so I asked with, complete abandon that God take care of me. This lady stood up, her name was Nina. She was an elder, and she said, I'm starting a big book study, and I want, anybody that wants to can come and do this study with us. And it felt like everybody in the room turned around, looked right at me. And I said, yeah, I'm interested, I'll do it. Because this was it. I'm gonna show you that this stuff doesn't really work. So she started me on the journey of once a week, there's about 5 to 8 of us that would show up and we do the big book. All you did was you opened up the first page and you read it. You discussed it, you asked questions. You were allowed to ask any question you wanted. And we got to the chapter of we agnostics. And Nina says, so Diana, did you read the chapter? No. Why? Because I'm a Catholic. She goes, what? But that's for Protestants, right? I can't do that. Not like I'd been to Mass. I mean, she goes, oh my God, you're dumber than I thought. So she sat me down and we went through every freaking line. And she asked me, do you understand what this says? Do you understand, where I'm coming from when I'm telling you about this, about the trust issue with God? When we say, we came to believe, she said, think of it this way. You came. I came to the meeting. I came to. I got some time now, I'm awake. I can actually make real sentences, I can hear you, I can understand, and I came to believe. And she goes, you're at that third part of it. Came to believe that a power greater than yourself could restore you to sanity, which means you have to admit that you're insane. When you drink alcohol, you do insane things. When you're not drinking alcohol, you're thinking insane things. And that oh, okay. Because I was really confused about this thing where people would say, it's not the bottle. The bottle is but the symptom. Alcoholism is the things that we have internally in our brain, in our heart, in our soul. The way we think. We have a twisted way of thinking. I loved it. When I had a big book study, we were called the Twisted Sisters because we had a twisted way of thinking. If I see somebody and they don't immediately respond the way I think they should, oh, I guess they hate me. She never liked me anyway. And I would make this whole story up. She was just in a bad mood because she just found out that she has cancer. But it's about me. I have to make it all about me. So I'm going through this big book study, and then after that big book study, my sponsor said, Nina, you have to start your own big book study. And you know how you kind of flip out? Because I have 3 years by now, but I'm not 3 years sober. I was 2.5 years dry. So I'm just getting my feet really wet with this program. So the insanity comes back into my head that, I got to remodel the house. I'm going to have to plant flowers. I'm going to have to get new towels. Should I start baking now for next week? I need to do all this. And I'm thinking all the surface BS that we get into in our head. And she goes, Diana, why don't you just open the door and let these women in? I've been doing a big book study now for over 25 years. And I take it as these women bless my house. I get to have this house because I'm an alcoholic who have opened the doors to let these women come in every week. We have anywhere from 5 women to 25 that come in. I get blessed by being taught by you people in the meeting, which is a big thing for me, was how to love and how to be loved. I was 10 years sober before I got that lesson in my head. This lady ran up to me. It was my 10-year anniversary, and we were having a big party with somebody else who had 20, and we had a new guy who had 1 year. And we were celebrating, and this lady brought out these buttons to me, and it said, "You are so loved." And I just started crying. And because nobody at that party wanted anything from me. Nobody expected anything from me. That was the hardest part for me, was to allow you just to love me for who I am, exactly the way I am today. Not what I was like 20 years ago, not what I can be 20 minutes from now. Right now, to be present. And that is a great lesson for me, because with my sponsees, some of them can be, totally insane, and I still feel that love for them. I have no expectations of their behavior. I'm just a vessel, I'm on a mission from God. And I now know that that's my calling, is to help women. And I love helping women. I rarely go to mixed meetings except when I speak. You guys are way too distracting for me. You're just so cute and everything. It's just like, oh my God. So I just try to go to women's meetings. And when my sponsor first suggested that, she goes, "I want you just to go to women's meetings." And I said, "No way." She goes, "Why not?" "Because there are a bunch of stabbing, backstabbing, gossip, judgmental women." And she goes, "Do you ever think that maybe you are?" Ow. Yeah, because I talk crap about women all the time. I was, I'd start lies, or I'd start little malicious kind of crap and stir it up. "Oh, you're dating him? I heard he was with so-and-so." It's none of my freaking business. But that's the kind of person I was back then. And and I love, even to this day, if I start listening to some gossip, I got to walk away, because there's still that bad, evil part of me that wants to hear it. So I never divulge information, unless I know the other person knows, and it's okay if I talk to them. I will let people know if somebody's sick or if they need help, that kind of stuff. But the romance, finance stuff is none of my business. I have loved my husband so much. When I was 8 years sober, I went to make amends to my ex-husband. And we're at the restaurant, and he's drinking a beer. And I tell him why I'm there. And I said, "I have 8 years of sobriety." And he just kind of looked at me and goes, "You haven't had an alcohol beverage in 8 years? I mean, all in a row?" No, I really haven't. Oh. So I do my amends to him. And the part about, being a better wife, that kind of stuff, I said, there were a lot of times when I knew I wasn't being a good wife to you. I knew I should have had your back. I knew it could have been better, but I didn't care. I was in my selfish self-centeredness, and I know I harmed you, and I'm sorry. And my amends to you aren't going to really benefit you, but what I will tell you is that I'm a good wife today. I'm a great mom. And I will always be kind and loving towards you, because you gave me the best thing I ever had in my life. We got done. It was about an hour and a half of this stuff. And I got out of the restaurant, and I could not wait to see my husband, because it was like I lost 175 pounds. This weight that I had been carrying, the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment. And I remember going right to Sacred Heart. There was a meeting going on, and I went and got John, and I just put my arms around him, and I said, "I love you so much. I can't tell you how grateful I am that he is my husband." My first husband, when I would walk into a room, would look over and he'd see me and he'd go, "Oh my God." Because he had no idea what mood I was going to be in. I walk into a room today, and my husband, when he sees me, he smiles. He walks towards me. I'm happy to see him. He's my husband. And I get to tell people, I'm his wife. You know, you guys might think that's kind of corny, but for a woman like me who just felt like a piece of crap, I am cherished today, and I'm adored. Thank God John was not in Al-Anon when we first got married, or he never would have married me. And he shouldn't have married me with all my insanity. You know, that's the only thing I'm grateful for Al-Anon. He goes to Al-Anon now, which I'm grateful for. We go to a lot of meetings. We do a lot of service work. And I got to tell you, you know, when Chris made the announcement about if you want a service commitment, get involved. If nothing else, that'll take you away from thinking, you know, is this right for me? Gosh, I've got 60 days. Maybe one beer is not going to kill you. No, it's not going to kill you today. It's not going to be one beer tomorrow. It's going to be 10. You know, and you may not die from it next month. You're eventually going to die from alcoholism. My dad died at 47 from alcoholism. My brother, who left 3 boys, died on his 33rd birthday from alcoholism. I knew I was next when this all happened. And when from his birthday in August of 91 until May, I started drinking every day. I was not a binge drinker anymore. It was every day. I started, you know, vomiting up bile, all that kind of stuff. Just my hair's falling out. And I didn't care. I knew I was going to lose John. I knew I was going to lose my son. I was losing my soul. And by the grace of God, I never got arrested for driving DUI. I should have been. And I don't know if it's because I was working for attorneys at that time or what. I knew a lot of cops. God saved me from that because I should have been in prison. I am so grateful for this program and for what you have given me so freely. I love how it says that in the big book. You know, what's been given to me so freely is what I have to give back. I don't sponsor the women I have to keep them sober. I sponsor the women I have to keep me sober. It is such a joy to be able to watch some of these women. I've had some women for 17, 20 years. And, you know, I don't meet with them every week. I meet with them when they need me. It's the newcomers that I really focus on, and we meet once a week. And we go through the big book, and we talk about the steps, and we talk about service work. And, you know, what are you doing with your life right now? You said you want to go back to school. Where's your application? Show me. We're going to get you through this. Or I have to go sit at the hospital because somebody relapsed really bad and are naked behind, you know, in the back seat of a cop car. I've been through that kind of stuff. It's amazing what we get to learn from the women in this program and the guys. There's some guys here that I love truly and deeply. But the thing that I guess I come back to is learning how to love with no expectations, no ties, and how to be loved and allow you to do that for me. I know it's kind of short, but unless we have a question and answer period, and if anybody has a question, does anybody have a question? Come on, somebody's got a question. Isaac, let's see. Judy, do you have a question? John? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and end. I got to sit down. I had some spinal surgery done. So I'm grateful. Thank you, Mike, for inviting me to speak. And it's good to see all of you. Thanks.